So in this video I'm going to show how to fix a dirt bike that's leaking gas. So I have fuel valve off right now, and when I turn it on, shortly after it'll start leaking gas. You can see there's a puddle from when it was leaking before. Okay, so it took a while, but here comes the gas. You can see it's flooding out of the overflow hose, and the carburetor looks a little wet, so I'm just gonna turn that off right now before it wastes more. Okay, so I'm gonna be covering specifically if it's the carburetor, not like a hose or anything, because that's pretty easy to fix. But you want to make sure that this screw is tight. This could be the problem because it intentionally will drain gas out of this hose, but mine's tight. That's not the problem. You can see looks a little wet around the carburetor, I think, or at least it did when it was dripping gas. And also you can see wetness around the air filter, which means that it's flooding and not coming out of that screw. Okay, so now I know I need to take the carburetor off. So the first thing, well, this doesn't have to be the first thing, but this is the first thing I'm doing. It's taking the butterfly throttle thing out. So you just unscrew it like a normal screw, and try not to get this dirty. You just gotta work this out. It's coming. Okay. Okay, there we go. So yeah, try not to let that get dirty, because the motor will suck that in if it gets dirty. The dirt, that is. Okay, so now you can take off the fuel hose, but you can see this is still filled with gas, so if I take this off, it's gonna leak. And the carburetor's not leaking anymore, I guess because there's not any pressure on it because the fuel valve's off. So I'm just gonna intentionally loosen that screw I talked about. It's pretty tight. There it goes. So if I loosen this a lot, not all the way, there you go, it's dripping again. And this should start lowering. This level here. Alright, I'll come back when it's drained. Okay, so this is taking a very long time, so I'm just gonna let it spill a little bit. So I had to prop this up against the wall because the kickstand's on the opposite side of where I'm pushing on. Anyways, now I can do this. It's getting there. Maybe I can just... there we go. Alright, so I'm going to remove the main two bolts now, and this will come straight off. You can remove the air filter if you want, but you don't really have to. It'll just make it less bulky if you take it off. Alright, so I'm gonna loosen this carburetor up. I don't really know if this is necessary, but I like to only loosen one bolt a little and then move on to the next side, just to be sure that you don't like crack this if one bolt's holding on at all strength. Alright, so those screws are off. Alright, this bowl probably has a little bit of gas in it still, even though we did drain it with that hose screw thing. So try not to tip it because gas might come out of it. So I kind of forgot a step. You should clean this off before you loosen it, just because there could be dirt on it that gets in. So just wipe this off, but it'd be better to clean it first. Okay, yep, that hose was full of gas. I didn't even turn it very much. Alright, so this table's pretty dirty, so I have a clean paper towel to set it on. And while you're here, now that this is off, it's a good time to check if your air filter's working good, seeing if there's dirt inside of here. And there's some right here, but that's probably from when I opened it. Anyways. Okay. So not all carburetors have the same like screw pattern like this, but you want to take off the screws connecting this piece to this piece. You can see the seam, and this one you can see isn't actually holding it. This table has a pretty convenient hole for this. So just loosen these. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so bring this over here, and now this should pop right off. There we go. So, some pretty bad gunk collection there. That actually kind of looks like dirt. Alright, let's look at the actual piece. So the culprit is most likely this thing not sealing, and this not being able to move well. Alright, well, I can't see the problem, but it's most likely this, or it could also be this gasket, because it did look moist around there. So there's this pin in here, you just pull it out. It can be hard if the carburetor's gummed up really bad. So then this will just pop right off. Okay. There's the float needle. And there's the brass part it seals to. So we're going to clean it now. So a trick for this is you can use a Q-tip, and it fits in here pretty good, so you can just clean out any dirt maybe that's in there, or anything preventing it from sealing. Okay, so now I'm going to start cleaning this with mass airflow sensor cleaner. It's probably better to use carb cleaner, but I'm pretty much out of it right now. And this will work because the main thing I'm using it for is just to blast stuff out of there. So, yeah, I'll just spray this in there. And it should also squirt out right here. So, I guess because it's going uphill, it's not really working, but if I put it in this first, then it will. Yep. Alright. So, hopefully blasted out the dirt from that. Now we just do the needle. So I didn't get it on camera, but there was actually a grain of sand on there. So that could have been the problem, or it could have just been from when I set it down. But I'm still going to clean this off. Okay, so I'm going to get this float needle good with cleaner. I've never had these expand from this. I think some lawnmower ones will, but these never do for me, so it should be fine. Get the other side here. Yeah. Okay, so now I'll put this back together. And make sure when you're doing this, you're putting the float on the way it came out, because it can go like this also. Okay, so just put this pin in now. There we go. Just like that, and it should function properly now. So I could just put this back together and it would probably work fine, but since I'm already here, I'm gonna get these other ports and make sure they're good. So I'll get that. Should be going into there, but it does not look like it is. Okay, so both of these did get some flow on through like there, and there's a hole right next to it, but this bike has never really ran good, so I'm gonna take these all the way out and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so just loosened that one, and there we go. So this one doesn't really do much, it's just a straight through passage. I can see light coming through it. There's a little hole on this end, so that's unclogged, but this one is a little bit more complicated. And these can be pretty hard to remove if the carburetor's really gummed up. This one wasn't, so yeah. So this is what I was talking about. There you go. You can see it has all these micro holes on it, and also a straight through shot. So you can spray cleaner through this and check if it comes out all the holes, and if it doesn't, you can probably block the other holes off and get it to work. Or you could just take a fine piece of wire or something and poke it through there. Okay, so this is a spring. These things work really good for poking these jets out. So, pretty small hole. There it goes. And I'm pretty sure all of these holes have holes on the opposing side. This one definitely does. So if you poke this through right, it'll come through both. There it is. And just work it back and forth. And you just do this with all these holes. Like I said, you probably don't have to do this, but it's good to do it. So I got all the holes poked out. Don't forget about the main inlet through the middle of this thing. Go. Okay. So now you just put these back in. There's also a hole under here. So there's a hole down there. So spray that out too, and that'll be the last one. Now you can reassemble. Okay, the carburetor's reassembled. Well, I missed a step. You should clean out the bowl too. So I tried carb cleaner and a paper towel and it didn't really work. So I had to use water, which isn't really recommended because you have to let it dry completely or else you're going to get water in the dirt bike. Also, I forgot about this, but make sure you retighten this bowl drain bolt. Alright, so I got the bowl dry, well, pretty dry, and time to put it back together, hopefully for the last time in a while. Alright, so I'm going to reassemble. Make sure there's no dirt on this gasket. A little bit more. Okay, that should be fine. Now let's make sure the carburetor end's good. Yep. So now you just slide this right back on, and tighten it up. Okay, so now it's time for the throttle, and you can't just push the throttle in. You need to align the slit with that screw back there, which is your idle screw, which just the idle speed. So you need to align this slit in it. There is a slit on this side. That's for putting the throttle cable in. Don't use that one. It needs to be this one. So if you just put this in, make sure you don't bend anything. When you put this in, you want to try to get this slit close to that screw. It doesn't have to be exact, but at least try to get it close. Okay, I'm getting it in. The slit's on the other side, so I'm just going to push this in, and you can see how the top is sticking up past where the thing would screw on. Okay, so you can see how high this is. So if you just grab this and spin it to where that slot would want to face that idle screw back there, you just push down and turn. Nope, hold on. Yeah, so you just push down and turn it. You can see it just went down, and push that down, make sure it's at the bottom. Now it's lined up with that screw, and that's really important to line up, or else the bike will over rev. So, be sure it's really down all the way, and then put the cap back on. That was really difficult to get started because the cable kept pulling it. So for this, you don't have to use any tools for it. You just want to go pretty tight just by using your hand. Okay, let's get this back on. Alright, and ready for the moment of truth. Alright, that's on. Filter should be filling up. Kind of already was full, but you can see it really is now. And I lost the hose, so the gas will come out here now instead of back there. The hose just snapped right off. It's looking good so far. It's been probably over 30 seconds, I would say. And if you're still getting leaks after that, it could be just that your float's bad or the brass is warped. But another common thing is this gasket, and I forgot to talk about that when I was fixing it, but if it leaks, you can just put some gasket sealer on there. I did that before, and it works kind of. So I'm pretty sure it's safe to say this isn't gonna leak, so let's go start the bike up. Time to see if it works.